This lesson is for NCP 301. Our focus skill for today is going to be to recognize one-digit factors of a number in context or in conjunction with other skills. So you'll see a problem like that. I think it's problem number 6 here on this note sheet. So please make sure you're filling out all of this note sheet and you're going to get this checked in so that you can begin on your skill sheets. So let's start here with a review skill. In this question, they ask us to fill in the missing values here, okay, in order to make this entire statement true. So what we're looking for is to create equivalent fractions. So I'm going to take a look at this first fraction. It says 2/5 is equal to some number over a denominator of 10. Now in order to change this 5 into a 10, I would have to multiply here by 2. So I need to do that in the numerator as well, so that I have an equivalent fraction of 4/10. Now, in the next problem, I went to an 8 in the numerator, and now I'm searching for the denominator. So what I'm going to do here is either go back to the original fraction, the 2/5 here, and think, okay, what can I do to make 2 change into an 8? Here I would have to multiply it by 4. So I'm going to multiply the denominator by 4 as well to get 8/20. Now I could have also done the same problem by looking at this fraction here, and starting with that question, I'd say, okay, how do I turn this 4 into an 8? I'd have to multiply by 2. So I'm going to multiply by 2 in the denominator as well, and I would still end up with 20. Now, the next problem, it's not quite as easy if you look at this fraction here to see how that 20 now changes to a 25 in the denominator. So this one is not as easy to do because it's not an easy integer that I would multiply here in order to get 25. So I'm actually going to look at the first fraction here. So let's go back to the 2/5 here. How am I going to change that 5 into a 25? Well, I'm going to multiply by 5 so that I get 25. So I want to multiply by 5 in the numerator as well so that I end up with 10. So 10/25 is equivalent to 2/5, which is equivalent to 4/10, and 8/20. All of these fractions here are all equivalent in their value. Now in the next one, you want to try to change this 5 again into a 45 because it's tough here to see what you would multiply the 25 to get to 45. So I would just go back to here. 5 times 9 gives me 45. So I'm going to multiply the numerator here and the denominator in order to get this with a denominator of 45. So in my numerator, 2 times 9 gives me 18. Okay? I'm going to let you guys do the last one. If you're looking at this 14, make sure you come back to the 2 and think about what you have to multiply by here in order to get 14. So you guys can finish off that problem on your own, and let's go to number 2. All right, now here in problem 2, it asks us to list all of the factors of 20. So what I'm going to do in my calculator is start with the number 20 and divide it by 1. So I always start with 1 and try to see what times 1 equals the number that I'm looking at. Well, of course, it's going to be that number itself. So 1 and 20 are both factors of 20. Then I'm going to increase here, and I'm going to look at the number 2. So I take 20, and I divide it by 2 in my calculator, and I would get 10, which means 2 and 10 are factors of 20. Now, when I increase to 3, and I try to divide 20 by 3, I end up with a number that is not a whole number. So because I don't get a whole number here, 3 is not a factor. Okay, so I'm not going to use 3 in my list. Now I'm going to skip 3 and go to 4. If I take 20 divided by 4, I end up with 5. Now if I increase to 5, because I'm going to continue to go up and count 1 up every factor. If I try to divide by 5 here, I end up with 4. So I end up with a repeat, right? 4 has already been listed as a factor. Once you hit a repeat, you're actually done, so I can erase here. And now if I want to list all the factors of 20, I have 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20. So these would be the list for the factors of 20. Okay, I'd like you to pause the video now and try problem 3 to list all the factors of 48 on your own. All right, now for the factors of 48, you should have 1 and 48, 2 and 24, 3 and 16, 4 and 12. So notice I'm going just in increasing order here. If I try 5, it doesn't divide 48 evenly, so I'm going to stop there and skip to 6. So I have 6 and 8. If I try 7, same thing, it doesn't fit into 48. And then all of a sudden, if I skip to the 7 and go to 8, I'm repeating now a factor, so I can stop, and these would be my factors. So I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, 16, 24, and 48. So I'm just rearranging those numbers in numerical order. Now in problem 4, they ask what is the greatest common factor of 20 and 48. So we've already listed, right, all of the factors here of 24 and 48. So now we want to find the greatest one. So the greatest common factor is the largest factor shared by two numbers. Okay, so when I look at these values here, I notice that both of them have a 4, right, a 2, and a 1. 1, 2, 4. Those are the numbers that they share. They don't share a 5, a 10, or a 20. So really what I'm looking at are this very small set of numbers, 1, 2, and 4, because those are the numbers that they share. So these would be just called common factors. These are all common factors. But the greatest common factor here is the number 4. So 4 is the greatest common factor. Now what this does to help is to reduce a fraction into lowest terms. So knowing the greatest common factor helps you to reduce a fraction. So here we've got 20 over 48. Now because I know that 4 divides 20 and 48 evenly, and it's the largest number that divides them both, I'm going to take 20 and divide it by 4, and take the 48 and also divide that by 4 to create an equivalent fraction. So 20 divided by 4 gives me 5 in my numerator, 48 divided by 4 gives me 12 in my denominator. So this would be 20 48ths reduced to its lowest terms. Now in question number 6, it says to find the product of the even factors of 30. Now what I want to begin with is just listing all of the factors of 30. So I start with 1 and 30, so I divide 30 by 1, I get 1 and 30. I increase to 2, divide 30 by 2, and I get 15. Then 3 and 10. I skip 4 because 4 doesn't divide 30 evenly. And then I try 5 and 6. Now, if I increase, again, one more to 6, I end up repeating back at 5. So here are all of the factors of 30. Now I'm going to go through and just look at the even factors, because I want to find the product of those even factors. The product means that you're just going to be multiplying those even factors together. So I've got 30, 2, 10, and 6. So now with my calculator, I would multiply all of these numbers together. And after punching that into my calculator, I get 3,600. So there's the product of all the even factors of 30. Now this example is something very similar to what you're going to see on your skill sheets and in your assessments for NCP 301, so make sure you come back to your note sheet just to see an example of this particular type of question. Okay, next up, you're going to need your graphing calculator, so go ahead and get that out now. I'm going to show you how to use your calculator to actually find the greatest common factor of two numbers. Okay, so if I were to ask you to find the greatest common factor of 20 and 48, remember we already found it, right? The greatest common factor there was a 4. We did that problem above. All you're going to do is type in math first, scroll over to number, and then you can scroll down to the number 9 here. See how they're numbered here? If we scroll all the way to number 9, we're going to see GCD. Okay, that really stands for the greatest common factor here. So I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to type in the numbers 20 and 48. So I start with 20, and then I'm going to need a comma. There's the comma button here, and then type in 48. I close my parenthesis, and then I hit enter, and I get the number 4. So that's the greatest common factor of 20 and 48. Now in a question like 7, where it says find the greatest common factor of 216 and 306, now normally that would take us a really long time, right? We'd have to sit there and do 1 and 216 and then increase from there, and we're going to have a lot of numbers here. We'd have to do the same thing for the 306 and then see what they have in common. But now we can use our calculator. Okay, so I'm going to type in the same thing. Remember, it goes to math, over to number, scroll down to 9. This time, instead of scrolling down, I'm just going to hit the number 9. And then it's going to pop up with the GCD here, which also means greatest common factor. And I'm going to type in 216, comma, 306. So instead of having to do all of that work, I can just type it right in my calculator, and I get 18. So the greatest common factor here is 18. Okay, now for the last two questions on our note sheet here, we have both word problems. So you're going to apply that new skill that you have of finding the factors of a number in context to a word problem. So let's begin with question 8 here that says you have 100 baseball cards that you want to place in Ziploc bags for the neighborhood garage sale. Now what we're going to do is list all of the different arrangements, which we're going to write as N bags of M cards, that are possible. So in other words, we want to break up these baseball cards into groups. So we want to distribute it evenly into the different bags. So really what we're doing here is practicing our new skill of finding the factors of 100. So I'm going to list, first make a list where I write that n is equal to the number of bags. So this column here is going to represent the number of, I don't know why I just wrote dogs. Sorry about that. Bags. There we go. And m is equal to the number of cards. I know why I wrote dogs, because my dog is chewing on a bone right now, and I was wondering if you guys could hear it. Anyhow, okay, so we look at 100, and I'm going to divide 100 by 1, so I have 1 and 100. So what this is saying is that if you took one bag, you would put all 100 cards in there. Okay, so that would be a pretty full bag. Now you could take 2 bags and you could put 50 cards in there, but you can't use 3 bags because you can't distribute those cards, those 100 cards, evenly among those 3 bags. So 3 is not a factor, right, of 100. So I'm going to skip 3 and I'm going to go to 4. And here I have 4 and 25 cards in each of those bags. If I increase to 5, now I would be putting 20 cards in each of those bags. Now if I continue to try to find additional factors here, I'm going to end up at 10 and 10. Okay. Now normally we would just stop here and say, okay, these are the different factors. So this question though is asking something a little bit different. It's asking us to list all the different possible arrangements, right? Now in this case, if I were to switch the number of cards and the number of bags, so these two numbers, I could also use 20 bags and put 5 cards in each. Now the numbers 10 and 10, I'm not going to use that again because 10 bags and 10 cards in each bag is the same as switching those two numbers around. So I'm actually going to repeat now this grouping here. Okay. Oops. All through here. Okay, so I'm going to have 20 bags of 5 cards, and I could also use, let me write this over here now too, because I'm kind of running out of room. So we still have a column for number of bags, and m is equal to the number of cards. And now I'm going to switch the numbers 25 and 4. So I have 25 bags with 4 cards each, 50 bags with 2 cards in each, and 100 bags with just 1 card in each of those bags. Now if we count up the different possibilities, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different ways of arranging into n bags of m cards. So this is something that you're going to do a lot actually in your skill sheets. So it's a little bit difficult if you don't have any practice with it, but you're going to get a little bit of practice before you take a quiz on this. So make sure that when you get to questions like this, you're first listing all the possible combinations, and then you're going to think about having to switch those as well to consider the different types of groupings there.
Okay, now next up in problem 9, this is slightly different than what we just worked on in number 8. So this question says that your family is trying to contribute food items to a food drive. Your mom goes to the store and she buys 72 cans of soup and 56 boxes of mac and cheese. Now, the question here says, what is the greatest number of grocery bags your mom will need if she wants to split up the soup and the mac and cheese and distribute that evenly? So basically what this is asking for is the greatest common factor of 72 and 56, because she wants to divide them evenly, right? Distribute them evenly into a certain number of grocery bags. So we're finding the greatest common factor, again, of 72 and 56. Now, I'm going to use the calculator to do this, but again, of course, you could do this by hand, and you would list 1 and 72, 2 and 36, and so on, and you would continue to find all the factors of 72, match them, and try to find the one that matches with 56 that's the greatest, right? The greatest common factor. But instead, I'm just going to use the calculator. So again, let's practice this one more time. We're going to go to math, scroll over to number, and then scroll down to 9, or just hit 9. GCD will pop up. I'm going to type in 72, comma, 56, close the parenthesis, and then hit enter. So the greatest common factor is equal to 8, which means that she needs 8 grocery bags if she wants to divide and distribute those items evenly. Now, the second part of this question says how many cans of soup and boxes of mac and cheese will be in each grocery bag. So let's think of it this way. She's taking 72 cans of soup and splitting it up into 8 different grocery bags. Now, this is pretty easy to tell that you're just going to take 72 and divide it by 8 if you want to distribute it evenly, right? So we end up with 9 cans of soup per bag. So 9 cans of soup per bag. Now for the mac and cheese, I would like you guys to try that one on your own, and then you're going to show that question here to me before you guys move on to your skill sheet as well. Okay, so you guys are going to do the second part of B on your own. Figure out how many boxes of mac and cheese will be in each of those grocery bags. Okay, all right, that's the end of the tutorial. So get to work and show me your notes.